Hey, what's up, guys? This is Jason Howerton. I'm the managing editor at TheBlaze. Sitting here with Dinesh D'Souza, author, commentator, filmmaker, kind of all of the above. And we're talking about, he has a new book and a movie coming out. It's called, let's see if I can get the camera right, Hillary's America. And it's kind of really timely given where we are in 2016.
Well, I think with the FBI decision not to prosecute Hillary, even all this stuff going on in Dallas with the shootings, I mean, this is a book and a movie that's sort of built for the headlines.
Before we get into the book, I did want to start somewhere, because we are here in Dallas right now, and I'm sure you've heard of what happened last night.
Oh yeah.
5 officers killed, multiple shot. It's just a targeted, really execution of cops by someone who apparently told police that he wanted to kill white people because of the recent police-involved shootings and what's been going on. I wanted to kind of get your sense of kind of where we are right now in terms of race in this country, and kind of how we got here. I've been trying to figure that out today, like how we got to this point where it feels like we're so divided that there's not really much left to unite on.
Yeah, I'd like to try to take that in a direction that's different than a lot of the commentary out there. A lot of the commentary has focused on who did it, right? And why did they do it? Who was the shooter? What was his motives? What was the ideology underlying it? Part of what I want to get at is, why do we have these confrontations at all, right? Well, as conservatives, we often don't talk about root causes, but let's just talk for one moment about the root cause of what's going on here. I think the root cause of what's going on here is, and this will be a provocative phrase, it's the urban plantation. The urban plantation. And what I mean is, if you walk today in inner city Detroit, Baltimore, Oakland, St. Louis, Dallas, Chicago, you basically see whole sectors of life that are almost uninhabitable. And by uninhabitable, I mean lives that are terrible. I don't just mean terrible in terms of poverty, I mean terrible in terms of crime rates, terrible in terms of horrible schools, no jobs, no hope. And so this is the urban plantation. This is the ugliest part of America. And the main point that often goes missed is that this urban plantation has been created, it is completely dominated, it is politically ruled by the Democratic Party. Democratic mayors, Democratic school superintendents, Democratic sheriffs, Democratic city officials. The Democrats own this territory. It never seems to change. We've spent trillions of dollars to kind of, you may say, upgrade it, gentrify it, transform it. It never transforms. The people who are poor never seem to become unpoor. The people who don't have opportunity never seem to get opportunity.
So what's the secret? How do we address that to finally actually make positive change as opposed to?
I mean, I think the first thing we have to realize is that the reason is that way is because it has given the Democratic Party one-party monopoly rule over those areas, right? Almost everywhere in the country, the two parties are competitive. We know that in every red state there are blue voters, in every blue state there are red voters, but somehow in the inner city the Democrats will get 90% of the votes. They have convinced the people who live on the urban plantation to keep voting in the people who keep them where they are. It's an amazing and heartbreaking political accomplishment, if that's even a meaningful sentence. We have to change that.
Okay. Okay, I do want to get into the book. So this follows, I mean, book and movie. They're kind of complementary,
the
right?
book treats these topics.
Yeah.
It deals with the evolution of the Democratic Party from the old plantation, which was slavery, through segregation and Jim Crow and the Ku Klux Klan to progressivism, which is now the designated administrator of the new plantation.
So you do get into the racial issues in here.
Very much so.
Okay.
And our movie does. Our movie is a lot about race, and the reason it's about race is because race supplies the moral capital for the Democratic Party. Race gives the Democratic Party the sense that they are the good guys because they did the civil rights movement. Now, leave aside the fact that they didn't. More Republicans voted for the Civil Rights Act proportionately than the Democrats. The Democrats were the ones who opposed it. If the Democrats were the sole party in America, neither the Civil Rights Act of '64, the Voting Rights Act of '65, or the Fair Housing Bill would have become law. So all of this has also been put under the rug. But this is the history that we dredge up in this movie, and it's going to be very eye-opening for people.
Okay, so eye-opening. I'm interested to know, is there anything in the movie, book, that you think people, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, whoever, are going to be either shocked or surprised to learn about Hillary that maybe they didn't know before?
I think that the thing that they will be most surprised to learn is what is the underlying motive for the Hillary scandal. So look, so we have Benghazi. And people say, well, Hillary was negligent. She didn't take the 3 a.m. phone call. Now, Hillary's been in public life all her life. She's not exactly incompetent in that regard. So why didn't she take the 3 a.m. phone call? Or now pivot to the email scandal. She goes to all this trouble to maintain a private server. So if you listen to Comey, she's negligent, she's careless, she's this, she's that. But why did she do it? I mean, why would someone take all that trouble? What are they up to? So the movie offers, and this is very similar to my Obama movie, I offer an interpretation of Hillary. This is the real Hillary Clinton, and when you understand who she is, you'll know exactly why she did what she did.
I have an interesting question, one that you might not have been asked before. Is there anything good you can say about Hillary Clinton? As far
Yes,
as,
sure.
What would you say is her best quality?
Tenacity. I mean, this woman, I have to admire the unbelievable doggedness. It doesn't matter. I mean, she's had the posse behind her, inches behind her, for about 3 decades. And yet, she puts her head down, doesn't matter what the scandals are, and she marches ahead and she challenges us to bludgeon her, jump on her, sit on her, and keep her down. Otherwise, she's going to get up and keep going. She's like that toy soldier who walks into the wall and keeps going. I mean, there's a certain, you have to admire that Clinton, and Bill has it too. When the Jennifer flower scandal erupted, I go, that guy's done. But pretty soon I realize he's in the White House. The Clintons have that quality. Obama's got good qualities too. The Democrats, they're good at what they do, even though what they do turns out to be very bad.
So the FBI director, James Comey, I watched the whole hearing, start to finish. And he laid out a pretty compelling case as far as, and hear me out, that past cases where there isn't a clear intent, clear criminal intent, regardless of circumstantial intent, there's not undisputable proof of intent, they haven't prosecuted in this case. Do you think he was right in his suggestion to not charge her, or do you think she got off the hook and she was guilty of a crime?
I think she got off the hook, and the reason I say that is because you've had cases that are much more marginal. Petraeus, for example, where they went after him hammer and tongs. Look at my little case with the campaign finance violation.
But didn't Petraeus, though, he lied to FBI investigators and concealed information?
Well, Hillary deleted emails, and this is when the investigation had already begun. She knew look, if I had 12 FBI agents reading my books, looking at my bank statements. If I had gone in and started deleting evidence, we would be having this interview from maximum security prison right now.
That is probably true.
Yes, that is true.
Probably true. The question still, I would just nudge, as a journalist would say, that deleting an email while suspicious, if it wasn't direct, I mean, I guess her case is that what was work-related versus not work-related is the question, right? And I guess the FBI director saying his findings were that they couldn't find malicious intent behind those deletions. But I hear what you're saying.
And look at the context. Here's Obama, and he, even before this case, is signaling both to Comey and to Loretta Lynch, Hillary's my girl. She's my designated successor. Now, that's not right. If there's an FBI investigation, it's kind of good to let that go. Bill meets with Loretta Lynch days before the FBI. So you have a context here, and you read things in a context where you feel like, look, these people are all signaling to each other. Loretta Lynch says the day before Comey makes his announcement, hey, if Comey says indict, I'll indict. It's almost like she knew he was going to say he wasn't going to.
So interestingly enough, you kind of described the Democratic kind of network that you're talking about, kind of or not kind of, you described it as a gang, right?
It's a gang.
A gang that looks out for each other and works with each other. How, I guess in your estimation, how serious of I don't want to say, how serious of an enterprise is that in Washington as far as, when something like the email scandal happens? How compromised is the system as far as what you have seen and researched for the book and the movie?
Well, gangs are all about stealing. One of the revelations in the confinement center was that all the criminals in there, and it was regardless of what they were in for, even rape, Rape is a form of stealing. It's taking something that doesn't belong to you. And I realize that all crime, when you push it, it comes at some level to theft. Now, when you're talking about the United States Treasury, Fort Knox, if you will, that's the prize. All that taxpayer money that comes in is $3 trillion. But even above that, all the mandates, the control of it. So that's the prize. And gangs are organized politically to get a hold of that money and power. So it's the biggest heist, in a sense, in world history. And the Democratic Party is sort of like an organized operation to figure out how to get their hands on that dough.
Now, do Republicans play a role in that too?
Sure. Republicans are part of that same system. There's horse trading. The only difference is that the Republicans ideologically are committed to defeating that system. It's almost like the Democrats built the plantation. The Republicans are pledged to take it down, although there are individual Republicans who realize, hey, there are some goodies to be had if I'm part of it.
Yeah. So this format of Hillary's America kind of follows Obama's America in I can't remember how long ago.
2012.
2012. How you kind of made predictions on how you thought a presidency would impact the country. As far as where we are, as a country, as Americans, how do you feel like your predictions kind of panned out now that we're actually in 2016?
I think they panned out pretty well, and I say this objectively. You can never get everything right. But what I said about Obama is that the thing to remember about Obama is that his project of remaking America is deliberate. And if I'm right, he will deliberately undermine our allies, and he will deliberately allow our enemies to consolidate their power. Now, just objectively, we can step back and say, who are our allies? Mubarak was our ally, he's gone. Gaddafi wasn't our ally, but we were doing business with him, he's gone. The bad guys are still there. Assad is still there in Syria, the mullahs are there in Iran, they're more powerful, Putin's more powerful in Russia. So just looking clinically at the outcome, I said Obama would double the national debt. It was $8.5 trillion under Bush, it's been more than doubled under Obama. And so I think I called Obama right. The difference with this film is that this film is not just about Hillary. She's actually about a third of the film, and the rest of it is an untold story of progressivism and the Democratic Party.
So last question about the book, and then Dinesh has graciously offered to read an excerpt from the book for you guys. So I'd like to know what are the implications or prediction, if you will, I guess is the best word to say, of if Hillary is elected, what are kind of the implications based on where we are with foreign policy, with Islamic State, with race relations, with poverty, with everything. Kind of what is your vision for if Hillary is elected?
I think that unlike Obama's end goal is ideological. Hillary's is not ideological. It's a kind of gangsterism. So I'll make a different kind of prediction. I predict if Hillary is elected, we will see in America mob rule. And by that I mean Hillary will be the mob boss of the United States, and she will be running America like that, in the way, let's say, Al Capone might run the political areas under his domain in Chicago. So she's taking the rackets that we've seen at the local level to not only a national but a global level. The Clinton Foundation operates globally. So that's I think where Hillary's going to go. It's going to be frightening. I left India to get away from mob rule and gangs. It'll be, to me, very disheartening to see that take over here.
The book is called Hillary's America. It comes out, correct me if I'm wrong, comes out July 22nd in theaters and on the shelves?
Yeah, the book is out a few days early on the 18th, and it can be ordered now. The movie opens nationwide the 22nd.
Okay, great. And we are live, so live TV. If you want to pick an excerpt that you think would be good to read to the audience, feel free.
May I just read from the back jacket?
Absolutely.
This is just a little segment, a little whiff of what the book sounds like. It's the Hillary enigma is actually the enigma of her supporters, the Democratic Party and the progressive movement. That's why this book isn't just about Hillary. It's also about the party and the ideological movement that propel her forward. I wrote about Obama as an individual because that is the best way to understand him. I'm writing about Hillary as the head of a movement or gang because that is the best way to understand her and what she represents. I call this book about Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party The Secret History because the story I tell is true and yet will come as a surprise. Did you know about the Democratic president who is the founder of modern progressivism and also responsible for the revival of the Ku Klux Klan? What about the most popular Democratic president of the 20th century, who blocked anti-lynching laws and for more than a decade cut deals with racists to exclude blacks from government New Deal programs? Then there is the president who is the hero of the civil rights laws, the same fellow that called blacks the N-word and said he wanted to keep them confined to the Democratic plantation. Hillary places herself in this progressive tradition, and in a sense, she belongs there. She is just as bad, actually worse, than her shameful predecessors. It's an eye-opening story.
But I want the record to show that I got Dinesh to say something nice about Hillary, her tenacity, even though it was a little backhanded, but it was still, I'm gonna take it. I applaud you for doing that. Thank you guys for tuning in. Dinesh D'Souza, Hillary's America, out July 22nd in theaters, July 18th on the shelves. He says you need to see it and read it before you vote. So do your due diligence, and thank you.